Good morning and welcome to another Wine Steward video. My name is Jim and this is a piece of pink granite. What does that mean? That's coming soon to a Wine Steward video near you. At any rate, we'll get to that. But what I would like to tell you mainly today is that the WineBar is open. It is always open unless we have it reserved for a private event of some kind. You can reserve that mezzanine someday if you'd like for a birthday party, a corporate event, or some kind of class that we teach your group. That would be fun as heck, wouldn't it? But what we normally do is serve people nice glasses of wine anytime they walk in. They can walk in any day of the week for a glass of wine, but as you know, you who have attended the WineBar faithfully over the years, you know that it gets more interesting on Thursday through Saturday with a different menu every week. And here it is. This is this week's menu. Finished it yesterday. Didn't have time to do the video yesterday, so here we are. I'd like to tell you about this menu. This one in particular because I think it fully represents what the Wine Steward is. It has so many different things on it. And in fact, as you know, we do flights Thursday through Saturday. And the flights this weekend, both red and white, are 5 unrelated whites, 5 unrelated reds. In other words, we normally do a theme, a much more coherent theme. We're going to do a bunch of French wines this weekend, or else Spanish. Or maybe we're going to do a 5-wine view of a particular grape variety, like Cabernet Franc. I mean, we've done all of these things, but this time we are being especially wine stewardy by doing so many different things. I'd like to tell you about those different things. I'd like to welcome back a wine. It has a new label now, but it is the same great champagne that we used to carry, and it is back. So the sparkling wine of the week is in fact this, which needs to be replenished. This is going to be Bernard Gaucher. Bernard Gaucher, if you were to look around very carefully on the back label, maybe it's somewhere on the front. There it is on the front. Teeny, tiny writing on the front. RM. You just see this little RM. That stands for Récoltant Manipulant, which I don't know what that literally means, but I can tell you what it indicates. It indicates that this particular producer grows all of his own fruit. Okay? That's unusual. It's very expensive to own a few acres of land in Champagne, even more expensive than it is in the Napa Valley, and you've heard all about that. Well, some people manage to have 5 or 7 acres and manage to have their own equipment and their own building called a winery, and they make they turn only their own fruit into champagne. So grower champagne. And is a grower champagne better than one of the big names? Not necessarily. Is it more distinctive? Almost certainly. And it's certainly the stuff of wine shops. This is the kind of thing that you will not find on the street at O'Reilly's or a Safeway. And it can offer better value sometimes. These guys don't spend marketing dollars on keychains and shit like that. They put all of their money into the quality of their fruit. They have full control from fruit all the way to bottled goodness. Bernard Gaucher, very fairly priced for very good champagne. What I like about it is its friendliness, nice fruit, not too far in that toasty direction, even though I like that kind too. This is more about pristine, brilliant fruit. Kiwi, mango, bone dry, it's a brut, and it is especially noteworthy for, I think it's mousse, it's tannin, not tannin, the froth in the mouth. It has a nice bubble, a nice, almost creamy bubble to it. Bernard Gaucher, it's back, and it's our sparkling wine of the week. The real stuff, grower champagne. Good stuff. Get in and get some, take some home. Let's tell you about the White Flight. The White Flight is fun. Once again, 5, let me read it to you. Let me show you. 5 unrelated whites, okay? Unrelated, fun as hell. I love jumping all over the place. I love difference. A true wine lover doesn't appreciate sameness, they appreciate difference. They don't even necessarily say, my favorite wine is this. You don't necessarily concentrate on which one your favorite is. You value the fact that the next experience will be different from the last one, unless you're drinking the same shit every day, and some people do, but come on, man, that's freaking boring. That ain't wine love, that's insecurity. Let's show you difference in this WineBar flight. Wine number 1, we showed this at our Burgundy event the other day. we have spoken for enough for it to hit the wine bar as well. This is called Domaine du Vieux Collage. Aligoté. Aligoté is the name of the grape. Comes from Burgundy, France. And you thought white Burgundy is always Chardonnay? No, it is also sometimes made of a grape called Aligoté. It's a little more simple. It's not as extravagant. It doesn't necessarily have the aging capability of a great Chardonnay from, say, Chassagne-Montrachet, but it's also at a lower price point. It just has a more, you know, everyday kind of thing about it, and a much more lemony effect on the palate. And that's why, in fact, it is wine number 1 in the sequence. This was a very interesting sequence to choose, to take these 5 wines, which were totally unrelated, and kind of understand how to put them in a flight. Like, what should come after this? So what comes after this? Aligoté from Burgundy, France, from a totally different country. Arinto from Portugal. Arinto, never heard of it? Let's show you that name. Maybe we can see this on the screen. Arinto is the name of the grape. And I'm sure you've heard of Vinho Verde. Well, that's not the name of a grape, but that's a wine region in northern Portugal. This comes from a little south of there, Arinto. No, they do also grow it up in Vinho Verde. They grow it in the Douro. I believe that Arinto is perhaps one of Portugal's, if not is Portugal's, most important white grape variety. Important? What makes a wine or a grape more important than another? Sometimes it's propensity for ageability. You can hang on to a Arinto and it will develop more character over a couple of years, where other things like Vinho Verde in particular, you want to drink fast. You want to get to that right away. By saving that bottle longer, you are not going to get a better wine. It's only its main beautiful attributes of brightness of fruit are going to fade. It's like it starts here and it does this. This can start here upon release and then do this before it finally, you know, all wines crash, but this has a nice developed quality worth waiting for if you age it a little bit. This is a Arinto from 2019, whereas we have Vinho Verde downstairs from 2021. Well, a 19 Arinto with 2 extra years of developing is very interesting. And it's got a fullness in the mouth and almost like a tannin to it too. It's got structure, ageability, it's got more to say about it. And that's what makes one grape greater than another, is some grapes just have a direct, simple message and others have complexity somehow. It's just what a great grape can do for you. You can say more things about it. Arinto from Portugal, give it a try. What should come next? Well, we just had kind of a fuller body mouth experience. Let's cut that. Let's cut that with the acidity of a beautiful, brilliant Pinot Gris, Grigio if you want, but Pinot Gris as they label it up in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. This is from Anami. An old friend is back. We haven't seen this on our shelf for a couple of years, and I'm so glad that the vendor of this wine has emerged from the pandemic virtually unscathed, and she was showing us this wine once again for the first time in 3 years in our vendor appointment just a couple of days ago, and we said, we got to get this Anami back in. So a lot of Oregon Pinot Gris use either a little bit of residual sugar or skin contact or a lot of lees stirring to enrich the texture, to make the wine a little rounder and richer. In this case, this is a Pinot Gris that is more precise, a little more laser beam acidity, very vibrant, very nervy, delicious. And after the Arinto from Portugal, it's a nice, like, oh, my mouth is just reawakened. So get in on this Anami Pinot Gris. And what should we do next? Let's go back to that Burgundy event. Another wine that really went off very well was this Puy-Fusé. Puy-Fusé, not Puy-Fumé. Puy-Fumé is in the Loire Valley. Puy-Fusé is at the lower end, the lower southern extremity of Burgundy, Bourgogne, if you want. Puy-Fusé made by Sommets Michelin. They make several different Puy-Fusés and Saint-Varan, and all of these names are 100% Chardonnay, all grown within maybe 4 or 5 miles of each other, and these guys make about a dozen different bottlings. They're all wonderful. This one is called Vigne Blanche, which means white vines. Apparently Macon used to have a lot more red than white vines. It's flipped, but way back when this plot was named, they called it Vigne Blanche because it was fairly unique for the area in that it was white grapes. Well, now white grapes proliferate here in this area. That's what they make more of. Beautiful white Burgundy from Puy-Fusé, but they're keeping that name. Here we go, Puy-Fusé from Sommets Michelin, one of the greatest white Burgundies on our shelf right now. Let's get it in your glass. The final wine of the white flight is Schloss Vollrads, and I'm sure I'm destroying that name. But as you can tell by the elongated bottle that this probably comes from Germany. And you'd be right, this comes from the Rheingau region of Burgundy. This is Riesling, don't run away. It's dry Riesling. So many of you fear the sweet stuff, and you shouldn't, as long as there's brilliant acidity. A Riesling with a little bit of RS is okay. I mean, the acidity keeps your mouth awake, goes so wonderfully with sushi. Well, so with this one, but it is more dry, more appealing to more customers perhaps. It does go at the end of the flight, not because it's sweet, but because its aroma is just like, it's the most extravagant nose of all 5 wines, I would say. So this just came aboard. We're so glad to have it. Schloss Vollrads. Sorry, Germans, if I'm saying that incorrectly. All right, that's the white flight. And you may be wondering, where's our Chardonnay of the week? Don't you guys usually do a Chardonnay by the glass? Well, yeah, you can order a glass of this. This will make the California Chardonnay lover very, very happy. It'll make the Burgundy lover very, very happy. This is a bridge wine right here. So the wine I already mentioned from Puy Fissé, there's your Chardonnay of the week, okay? We just conveniently tucked it into the flight. But you can have glasses of any of these wines. That's how you know a wine better anyway. All right, so rosé, look what's back. 2021 Domaine de la Fouquet. Make sure you pronounce that carefully, unless you're really upset at the wine. And get in on this dry rosé from Provence. It's beautiful. It's the rosé of the week. We're still doing that even as we enter the fall because we like rosé and we still have some on the shelf. So we got to get through that inventory, right? But really, what these are great for is drinking all year long. And I think most of you know that now. Dry rosé isn't just about a hot summer day in the Livermore Valley anymore. It can be enjoyed all the time. We think of them as a great Thanksgiving partners, Thanksgiving dinner. Why not have great pink wine on that crowded table? Domaine de la Fouquet. It is offered once again by the glass on the WineBar menu. The red flight. And just to remind you, 5 unrelated reds. How fun, how fun. We're gonna go all over the place, all different shapes and sizes and shades of red. How about that? Let's start with a dark one. I mean, normally we start with the delicate and then we get darker and darker and darker, but this time we're gonna jump around. I think it's really fun to excite the palate, upset it a little bit with the surprise of different sizes of wines throughout. We don't have to necessarily go light to finally big and dark. Let's just jump around, shall we? Unrelated. Here we go. Wow, that's a crazy looking label, isn't it? This is called Legittimo, and you must be wondering where the hell is that from because there's no data on the front label. Well, on the back somewhere you will find out that this comes from, in fact, the Douro Valley of Portugal. In fact, where I was just hanging out for a couple of days before we drove into Spain. So the Douro Valley has Porto, the beautiful little city of Porto, near the mouth of the river, near the Atlantic, and then you drive up about 2 hours to get to where the grapes are actually grown. Beautiful area. If you have time, you've got to take that drive. Stay in Porto, but head up the river to see those vines. It's a pretty incredible landscape. That's where this happens. And I just mentioned Porto, right? This is in fact port country. This is where the original ports were and are made. And you must be thinking, well, is this going to be sweet? Is it going to be fortified? It uses the exact same grapes as port. It uses Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinto Roriz, and yet it is dry. So it's taking the red grapes and not fortifying them and not rendering them sweet. It's a dry red wine, very nicely polished. These reds, dry reds from the Douro Valley can be really almost dirty, really structured and grumpy. This one is, you still know it's from the Douro Valley. It's compact, intense, but it's got a nice polish to it. It's a refined Douro red, and that's kind of a hard thing to find. There it is, Legittimo. It is legitimate. Wine number 2, and this is gonna mess with your head. We just had a big, darker wine. Well, fairly big, but super dark. Now we're gonna go super light. Here is a gorgeous Pinot Noir from, once again, our friends at Anami up in the Willamette Valley. So a very pure, beautiful, wonderful fruit that's super balanced, good acidity. It's not overdone, it's not underdone. It is what it should be. It is a graceful, elegant Oregon Pinot Noir. Not over the top at all. Just like there is truth to this Pinot Noir. You know what I mean? I think you know what I mean. It's not faked out. They didn't throw shit in there and leave residual sugar and, you know, it's real. Anime, it's real. The real thing. I think that was Coca-Cola, right? But anyway, now we're going to go bigger and darker and a little more rustic to a favorite place of mine. We're going to go to the Rhone Valley of France for a brand new Vacqueyras. This wine just arrived, and I really like to get newly arrived wines straight to the menu for 2 reasons. So you can be excited about what's just come in, and so our staff can get to access these open bottles so they know what the hell we're selling downstairs. They don't always get to stand with me when I'm doing a tasting appointment with a vendor and choosing these wines, but the next best thing is for me to get them right to the wine bar, and they will very thoughtfully make sure they go through the flight and understand what Jim has chosen for the store. Sometimes it's hard to understand, but wow, dark, very dark. This is a very dark, intense Vacqueyras. Vacqueyras, what the hell is that? It's the name of the village, okay? It's right next to Gigondas and not far from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Those are all places of names. They're place names. That's how Europe tends to name its wines, right? By location. This is in fact made of Grenache Syrah Mourvedre. It's a GSM from the 2019 vintage, hence the color. That's a vintage that conferred huge darkness and potent fruit on its wines. And this is a great example. A very affordable Vacqueyras. That's a lot of wine. Now, wine number 4. What shall we do now? Shall we go darker than that? I don't know if that's possible. So why don't we just kind of lighten up again? Right? It's really fun to do this to the mouth, isn't it? I mean, I don't mind. This is called Les Deux Flèches, which means not a lot of flesh. It means the 2 arrows for some reason. Vieille Vigne, that means old vines. So this is the old vine version from this producer of Fleury. Fleury, once again, there's a location. Doesn't say what the grape is anywhere on this label. What you're having is 100% Gamay. The importer did help us by putting that there, 100% Gamay, but they don't have to report that. We just happen to know that Fleury, which is a cru, a bitter neighborhood within Beaujolais for growing the grape, is 100% Gamay. It's got to be by a local wine law. This is so pretty that I will have some right now. I love Beaujolais, and I really love really good Beaujolais, and I'm going to make a big deal about really good Beaujolais starting now through Thanksgiving, because this is the time of the year when you start to give a damn about this grape. You anticipate perhaps having that really crummy Gamay called Beaujolais Nouveau at Thanksgiving time, unless the wine steward has re-educated you, and one at a time you are in fact seeing the light and learning that Beaujolais isn't just about the Gamay Beaujolais Nouveau. It is about more significant wine made of the exact same grape, but done the important way. It's fermented not with carbonic maceration, but this was done in barrique, so small barrels, and fermented just like you would ferment great Pinot Noir. And in fact, you could relate this to a great Pinot. Wow, it's beautiful. What intensity. Once again, darker than Gamay typically is, perhaps. Wow, beautiful wine. I'm so glad to have found this. It's from our friends at Pierre Clos Imports. Oh, man, I don't want to stop smelling that, but I must tell you about the final wine. The final wine is a Zinfandel. We don't do Zin all that often here at the Wine Steward. Well, this grape is sometimes overdone, right? And that's kind of like, we OD'd on that overdone style of Zinfandel a long time ago and have had a hard time coming back to the grape. But Buckland is a great reason to. The fruit here is beautiful, but it's also balanced. It's not sweet. It's generous. It's ripe, but it's not stupid, if you know what I mean. This is a really nice way to end the flight. This comes from the Sonoma Valley. Buckland has some of the oldest vines in California, and they took cuttings off of those vines and were recently planted this vineyard to a lot of different varieties. So Zinfandel is the base, but you've got all kinds of crazy things planted in this vineyard, the same way the mother vineyard was planted. So Petit Syrah, Carignan, probably even some Muscat is in there, Alicante Boucher, who knows. It was meant, however, to be a reflection of their original, their vineyard, from which they still make wine, but that's a more expensive one. So this one called Bambino is their more affordably priced wine from the younger vines, from Buckland. Guys, I really feel like every week the Wine Steward is putting an interesting flight or two in front of you, but this weekend has just inspired me to say, man, there's nothing more wine stewardy than what we're doing this weekend in terms of showing you difference for people who love difference, but for people who don't need to drink the same thing every night. Come into the wine bar and celebrate diversity. All right. Have a great one. The weather's going to be really, really nice this weekend, so come on in to downtown Pleasanton, up to the mezzanine, and we will see you for a flight or a glass, or who knows, both. Cheers.